Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the next session of Soul Strings. Rather, I could also say, Vanakkam, everyone. This is the little Tamil I learned in the last 5 minutes of banter that I could hear before we started today. Well, I've been missing from the scene for the last 2 weeks. And if I actually want to assimilate what happened during the last 2 weeks, what did I miss? Right? Did I miss much, or did I miss a lot, or did I not miss anything at all? Where for me, I did miss a lot. What I missed was, of course, this smart talk that I see every now and then. What I missed was this outstanding host who runs the show so beautifully. What I missed was you and me, us, right? Because this is our platform, not mine, not yours. And most importantly, what I missed was putting forth my experiences, my thoughts, and learning so much. That L for me is learning. And so for me, what I missed was Soul Strings. And I'm sure nothing can replace the place that it has taken in my life, or rather the position that it has taken in my life. And I'm sure that's the same case with all of us. And so every now and then, the next time you want to know the meaning of Soul Strings, do not attend the meeting for a week and then keep on asking yourself, what did I miss? And you'll have the answer in terms of what is Soul Strings. No, I'm not telling you miss out on any great discussions and putting for your thoughts, just what I feel about Soul Strings. Moving on to perhaps the lady in the house who's dressed in a different color today for a particular reason, as she says, that we need to listen to. I mean, there the learning comes itself, listen to our parents, and you should follow their advices. Wish everyone a very happy Navratri. We're pretty much coming to a very important festival in the Indian culture tomorrow, and that's the victory of good over evil. And here we have someone who actually keeps on telling us how to actually change, improve, enhance. So what better than moving on to our host for the evening, Menaka. Over to you, Menaka. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. And a huge welcome to Soul Strings. And a happy Navaratri for whoever is celebrating Navaratri, including myself and my family and friends. Today, we are having a guest from Tamil Nadu in India. And of course, we share the same language. But more than that, the reason I invited him today to speak on Soul Strings is we are going through a phase of adversity, challenge, and turbulence, whatever we call it. And I couldn't think of anyone better to invite to suit this particular phase of our lives more than Dr. Hari Balaji. So Dr. Hari Balaji, a very warm welcome to Soul Strings. He is a hotelier turned humanitarian with experience from 3 continents, Asia, Europe, and North America. And he has a lot of experience in deep-rooted disaster management, both in pre-disaster training and post-disaster multi-sector collaborative humanitarian response. And he is also a consultant for multiple projects, from government to NGOs to corporate to educational institutions. He is a visiting professor from MIT, World Peace University to Savita School of Law to NAM School of Engineering in Trichy. So he has a wealth of experience who we will be asking questions and exploring how we can share the knowledge to help everyone else to cope with any adversities we have in our life to the best possibility. Before we go into that region and delve deep, let me introduce Dr. Hari Balaji and ask him to tell a few words about him to do Soul Strings and the audiences. Thank you. Over to you, Hari.
Vanakkam. I'm really happy to be here among all of you. I've attended as a participant while Kribai spoke. I'm really happy. Thank you, Menaka, and thank you, Team Soul Strings. I started as a hotelier. I did my degree here in Chennai. At that point of time, when I joined to do my hotel management, I didn't have any idea of going to Europe or any other country. My idea was, let me finish this course and then find a good job and settle here in Chennai, India. But one of my friend, a very good friend of mine, Sharad, he was the one who actually uh, started this thought. Why not we go to the we go to Europe and do our further studies, which and he actually did the legwork. He did all the research. The best country to do hotel management further studies would be Switzerland, and which school. All these details he has collected, and it was more all well presented in a platter to me and one more friend of mine. We three planned to come to Switzerland, and Sharad came with his idea. Then I joined, and then another person named Dhruv joined third. The person who got the visa was the one who joined last. He got the visa first. He came to Switzerland. Then I got visa. I came to Switzerland, and the guy who came with the idea, Sharad, got his visa rejected. So 6 months later, he joined us. By the time we finished our course and we were in our training, we got trained in Geneva and in Bellevue, to be more specific. So at that point of time, Sharad came and he didn't actually like the atmosphere because all his friends, all his batchmates, we have finished our course and we have moved on with our training when he was joining to study. So he returned back a couple of years later due to some personal reasons. He's no more with us now. So what then I finished my course there. I got selected in a, a particular program in US. It's an 18 months program where we get trained in management, different departments. We get to work with the general manager, shadow director. It's a well structured program. So I got selected for that. I went there, and the day I was traveling was 9/11. So from Zurich, we took the flight just 1 hour before landing in Hartsfield Airport, Atlanta. We were told that we are going back to Zurich, and unlike auto rickshaw in Chennai, where you can just decide and take a U-turn and go back where you want, we know gas is not filled for a round trip. So we had to stop by in Ireland, fill, and then come back to Zurich. Only after reaching Zurich, the Zurich airport, what I saw when I left to US, and after a few hours, when I saw was Coimbatore bus stand there. Coimbatore is a local bus stand here in Chennai, which is always rush. Whichever angle I see, it's always crowded. So a lot of people were there standing, sitting on the floor, a lot of baggages everywhere. Then when we saw that, because while we were coming back, they didn't tell what was a real reason for us to not land in US. Airspace was shut. The afternoon flights which came from Zurich or from Europe were sent back to the place of origin. So after we reached, we came to know that it was a twin tower attack, terrorist attack, and all those information. My situation was this: September 10th, my visa got over in Switzerland as a student. I was traveling from September 10th to US. So I've surrendered my phone. I've vacated my studio. My As per my college records, I've left Switzerland. As per my studio contract or the person who I was staying, that phone contact details all surrendered. Everything is changed. So once they see this news, my parents were trying to contact me. My phone is not in service. They contacted the school. They said I've left Switzerland to US. They contacted the caretaker. He said yes, he has left Switzerland. So they contacted US, the hotel where I was supposed to go and reach, Westin Peachtree Plaza, downtown Atlanta. The HR said no, he hasn't reached here. So they didn't know whom to contact. There was a lot of confusion, and then news here in Tamil Nadu portrayed as if the whole America was under a terrorist attack, but it was just a particular place. So all this kind of confusion, and then of course, uh, airport they arranged us phone cards because I've converted everything from all the francs to dollars because I'm traveling. So then they gave us some, all this kind of exchange, money exchange, separate booths were set up. So that was a different kind of experience. 2 days later, then things came into normalcy. Then our flight came, all whichever was initially cancelled, diverted, all those things came into normalcy. And then I landed. So this was a different kind of experience which I observed, and also I saw the way how the Swiss police handled the whole scenario. And after reaching US, I also saw how FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, was handling all these kind of scenarios. Then I finished my management training. I got my H1 sponsored. I was working. Most of the locations where I was given project where either a sick unit which has to be revived. When I say sick unit, the one which is not financially performing well, where a team of members are sent to analyze and come up with a basic organization development strategy, and then that will be implemented by the operations team. So most of the projects which I worked were of this type. So it is sick because probably because of mismanagement or due to some which is not in their control. So one of the properties which I was given was affected by Hurricane Katrina, New Orleans. When I went there, we did all our basic whatever research to be done, all the documentation, everything was finished. It's a 6 day period we were given. We finished it in 4.5 days. So we thought, why not we go see the places which was affected by Hurricane Katrina? That actually changed the whole canvas. Had I not gone there to see the places which were affected, or had I not gone to see the places, the containers where people were staying, maybe I wouldn't have canceled my green card and returned to India. When I went and saw, that made me think a lot, a lot more than what I normally used to, because uh, till Hurricane Katrina, they had everything, and just one disaster has turned their entire life upside down. Most of them, it was very clearly evident about the psychosocial aspects, where a lot of people were under huge stress. A lot of people didn't even cry, but you can tell from their face that they have they want to sleep but they can't sleep, and you can, but then, like, their eyes is tired, but then they just sit in one corner, just staring at some some part of the room, not eating properly. A lot of things were there, and it made me to think, like, what am I running towards? Because, like, okay, I finished my degree, I finished my masters, after that I got this visa, I came here, but what am I running towards? Yes, I'm getting good salary, everything is there, but something was missing. So then I realized, being only son, born after 13 years, yes, I wanted to go to Switzerland, with a lot of opposition from the family, because the general opinion at that point of time when I did hotel management was, in order to clear a plate which is used by somebody after eating, do you want to spend 20 lakhs, uh, 2 followed by 6 zeros, Indian rupees? Okay, do you really want to spend that much money? Do you think people who work in catering business here in marriage halls, do they have this kind of degrees, but they're making money? Why are you sending your son to a country, and that too only son? Are you sure that he is not going to come back with a girl from there? All these kind of usual things what we hear. I heard my parents also heard that. And in fact, one of my relative went one more step ahead and said, like, are you sure you really want to send your son? You would never know whether he's going to come back with a girl or a boy. So all these kind of comments came. So I said, like, see, they are they have understood what I want to do, and they're trusting me, and I'll do what is best for the family and what is best for me. So based on that, I went, did this course, and then when I came back, it's the same thing. When I said, I've decided to come back, cancel my green card, the only answer I got from my family was, you know, the current scenario, what is good for you. You're at an age where you can decide. So go ahead. We are with you. You can go ahead and take the decision. So I came back, and while coming back, what I was told is two things. One, in order to come back and be in this field of disaster management, supporting the government, either I have to be IAS, Indian Administrative Service, who is normally the district administrator. Uh, there are different states, sorry, different districts in a state. So in order to administer that district, one has to do this exam and then pass, become that. That is one route. Or the other route would be to take public health. So I took that route, and to gain experience, I got a good opportunity in Kuwait at that point of time, where they were looking for a person, an Asian with European education and US experience. So fit was perfect. So I took that opportunity, worked there for 3 years, got that as a, it was a mother and child luxury healthcare property. for a hospitality support services side. After that experience, I came back here, joined a full-time MBA in Chennai, Ramachandra Medical College in Porur, did that course as well. During that course, as a project, I did disaster management. What one thing which I noticed in US while I was there during Hurricane Katrina was the hospitals were really, really on top of all the procedures. They had clear setup for disaster management survivors. They had very good setup in terms of coordination, communication, because what I normally see, whichever field, we see a huge gap always in communication. I saw that was functioning well. Of course, there were a lot of areas for improvement. A lot of news came about the mayor there swindling money. A lot of things came, which I do not know for sure what is right, what is wrong, what is true, what is not. But what I observed, I was really impressed with the way they handled the whole scenario. And on the other hand, it also was running in my back of my head. What would India do if a disaster of this scale happen? Who will coordinate these kind of things? Who will arrange food for people? Because at that point of time, I used to think, okay, a disaster strikes, food, medicine, place to stay, and some clothes, and that's it. The things are sorted. But then after doing this course and after working, I understood that's only the first 15%. 85% happens after the disaster. The humanitarian relief part, the humanitarian assistance which we support, not just the materials, but also psychological support, psychosocial aspects, and help them to come out of depression. And it's a huge ocean. At least 13 core areas are there. So after coming back, I finished this course, and then I finished this project with NDMA, National Disaster Management Authority. The topic I chose was, how is the scenario for hospitals in case of a disaster? What is the vulnerability if I'm a patient in a hospital and if a disaster strikes in that area? How safe am I? Because normally people rush to hospital, but in case of disaster which is happening near hospital, how safe are the people inside the hospital? This is the area I took for both the cities. I compared Chennai and Bangalore, and both are not good, but comparatively Bangalore is much better. Okay, obviously all the hospitals requested not to mention the names, so we went with ABC, and we didn't reveal the names. I got my degree, and then one good thing happened. While I was studying, before my degree got completed, the National Disaster Management Authority held an exercise here in Chennai. And guess what? The academic host was Ramachandra University, where I was studying. So I grabbed that opportunity. Whatever opportunity I got, I took it. They said volunteer. I said, okay, I'll be a volunteer. They said, and then the other area which nobody chose was ushering the chief guest or the faculties who are coming from airport to the college. I Most of them didn't like it because they felt like, why should I go receive him from airport and bring him all the way, be with him while he is coming from airport? But I saw it as an excellent opportunity for me to talk to him for 40 minutes, him or her. One way 40 minutes, other way 40 minutes. I can talk to him or talk to her. Of course, 10-15 minutes I allow them to come see whether if they are sleepy, I don't disturb them. If they are ready to talk, then I talk to them. One such person who was very, very, very humble, down to earth. I told him, I didn't know who he was. I spoke to him. He came, and then on the inauguration day, he is the chief guest. I didn't even know that he is the chief. I thought he was one of the faculties. He happened to be the member of National Disaster Management Authority for Tamil Nadu and Kerala, and he was the one who was reporting to chairman, who reports to Prime Minister, Mr. Dr. Muzaffar Reddy. Sorry, Dr. Muzaffar Ahmed. So he asked while the program got over. It's a 1 week program where 1,500 people were trained on different topics. 60 faculties, 40 national, 20 international came. It's called emergency management exercise. And based on each city where it happens, the first letter gets added. So while he finished that program, while he was returning, he asked, would you be interested to do a project? And that's how I got this particular comparing two cities, healthcare facilities. This was submitted to government, and thereafter I started getting projects from government. one thing I noticed wherever area I was deployed, basic thing in case of adversity, wherever I noticed, okay, different kinds of scenarios, disasters, it might be a flood or a landslide, or it can be a epidemic, all these things, people who were able to bounce back, I saw a similar pattern, which was ACE. One is like they're able to adapt to what is happening to them, not just get stuck there, but they adapt. And then they also do a bit of networking for them to come out of that particular situation. And they're open to evolve from what they are to a next level or what is required. This
Sure.
is one. And second thing I also noticed, when these kind of issues, these kind of disasters happen, of course they take their own time initially to process it, but once they process it, it turns that painful memory, it becomes more of a just a occurrence of activity, not a painful occurrence. Before, if they don't process it, anytime and every time they see something else which is almost close to it, then this gets connected with the same thing, and then again they go back. That pain affects them. So once they process it, it becomes just one of the activity which has happened in their life. And lot of learnings, especially from people, tribals. I was working with them very closely. One thing I understood was uh, they approach life as it is, and they don't complicate it. uh, as I've noticed, what I've done, or some of my friends whom I know, or people around me who do, they see life much more in a clearer way. Lot of things, from the food habits to sleeping, it might sound very simple or even silly, but I learned a lot from them. So that helped me. Another question I get a lot is, okay, you did hotel management, then you moved to hospital management, and then you are in disaster management. And I also take up projects in different areas. One of the projects which I'm involved now currently is waste management, solid waste management. And probably some of you would be aware of that particular brand, Urbesar, have taken up Chennai to clean half of Chennai. Urbesar and Chennai Corporation have joined together, and they're doing that. And some of the areas where wherever I address school or any forums, okay, how do you see this from different areas, different uh, industries? My answer is simple. What I notice is, one side you have a person who needs something, one side you have a person who is ready to give. And most of the time I choose a role which is connecting these two. Okay,
Sure.
a hotel or a hospital, or especially disaster management. I chose this humanitarian response part, where right after the disaster, people like me from different locations are deployed. 48 hours we have to go assess, do a pilot, send a report to the head office. Based on that, relief materials get released from the strategic locations which are already placed. If in case of a disaster, so based on the history, there are a lot of locations, materials are placed. So basic material, relief materials get issued immediately. And based on our report, a detailed report is done and it is pitched to all the donors across the world. So that money comes in, it will start flowing in a 30 to 40-day period. By that time, we will do a detailed need analysis, and that will also be submitted. Based on that, a
Okay.
proposal prepared, money comes.
Sorry, Harry. I'm just going to go back because I know that you are talking about the organization level, how disaster management is done. Just to help the audiences and me understand, some of us are on this platform at this moment is from Sri Lanka. So we have, faced war, we have faced tsunami. You have, of course, talked about Katrina and now the COVID-19. So yes, it is excellent that organizational level that governments and organizations are doing these great things. Of course, without that, it will be very, very hard for us to do anything. However, as an individual, as a family, or as a local community, how can we, first of all, ourselves cope with these things? And secondly, how can we help other people? What is the best way we can cope, and what you have witnessed or how you are teaching others to do it. Can we have some insight, please?
One is whichever city I'm living in, whichever part of the world, one, understanding the history of that particular place. When I say history, not too far, just 5 years before, what are the disasters that has happened in 5 years, and how did the city cope up with that? What are the areas which are affected? If it's a low lying, sea level, below the sea level, or what kind of disasters that has happened, or how vulnerable is this particular location? We understand, not necessarily that we have to know the topography and all those kind of detailed things, but basic things, one. And second thing, in case if I know there is a possibility or a vulnerability for this kind of disasters, what should I do? What should I do for my family, or what should I do for the people in my building or in the street? These basic things first a person should be aware. I'll go even next level down, where if there is any problem with the cylinder, if there's any problem with a basic fire or electric fire at our house, what are the things I should do? Whom should I call? Or what things immediately I should do? These basic steps one should be aware. One. Second thing, numbers, uh, documents, cash, and if there's any jewels and any important things which you immediately want to carry, all these things normally should be kept in a particular packed and kept in an area where it is not like, at that point we are looking for things in different parts of the house. Another thing is, almost all governments now are understanding, especially after climate change and all the other, most of the governments conduct courses which is free. So best thing is to enroll for basic courses, not even the advanced courses I'm talking about. Basic courses, government, almost all governments, Singapore I saw this, US I saw this, Kuwait I saw it. So everybody is, I'm sure UK also has nice courses. So basic courses, please do enroll and do that. And normally they're 2 hours or 3 hours. Okay, if at all there is no interesting course, what if you feel that if it's not something enough for you, CDC Atlanta, WHO, UNICEF offers a lot of free courses. UNICEF website I can give you, in the message I'll type the link, where a lot of free courses are given for public to understand. WHO has again a lot of free courses as well. If you want to go a little bit in advanced manner, of course Coursera and other platforms are there for us to learn. But so first thing would be to understand what has happened in the past, and what am I vulnerable for, the city which I'm living in, how they have handled it in the past, and what should I do to understand it. Second thing, once we are clear with that level, then second level would be to volunteer when there is any activity of that sort happens. So that will give us the exposure of the on ground activities. Third thing, once we are confident with that, then start sharing what we know to others and form small community groups, WhatsApp groups, and then have regular trainings. What I noticed in Singapore was, government does this kind of activities and form small groups in each area, and those people in turn also involve students, involve from schools, from colleges, homemakers, maid centric training. It is not just one kind of blanket training to all. Depending on their age and their activity, they tweak it so that it's more easy for them to relate and connect. So those kind of things can be done as well. And if any information from my side is required, I'll be happy to share uh, in our group as well, because a lot of free information is available. When I say free, but not from some normal place, I'm talking from real good universities. Content is given for people to know. So these are available and that can be shared.
Sure. Thank you so much, Harry, because I just wanted everybody to understand, because obviously COVID-19 came and a lot of people were not ready for what followed, and we are still in that phase sometimes. So it's really important as an individual, family, and small community level what we can do, right? Like for example, for SoulStrings was born during COVID-19. Because because I was coaching at the time, and group coaching, and it became very clear how distressed people were, and people were losing jobs, and people were mental health issues, domestic violence, financial issues, everything was becoming more and more apparent. And I was part of a couple of more organizations as well. When I spoke to people, this was gathered. So the problem solving, this is what was happening. And however, like 3 months later, now for everyone on this platform, just to let you guys know, we are planning to take this a step further and start doing some webinars to help the wider community. I think like you said, I really like what you said. There's an opportunity in everything, and you didn't see it as a going and doing chauffeuring or going and picking somebody up. You thought it was an opportunity to speak to that person for 40 minutes. And I don't know how many of you have heard Simon Sinek. I really listen to him a lot because I like the way he thinks. There's a story he says. He goes for a outing with his friend, and there's a bagel shop. So he thinks, okay, let's go and grab a bagel. And his friend says the line is too long. And he says again, but it's bagel. The friend says the line is too long. So to cut the long story short, all Simon Sinek could see was a bagel. And the other person, all they could see was a long queue. So in life, often that's the way it works. We can either see where we want to get in, what we want to have, and find a way to get there, or we can, complain and see the barriers and roadblocks and think we cannot do it. So, it was so beautifully explained that way. Thank you so much for that. So going from there, so as a community, so we started doing that at SoulStrings. And I know right now at this moment, COVID-19 is in everyone's mind. And I know you are quite actively participating in things and you're doing, because I know I speak to you often and I know you're very busy at this moment dealing with all that. What has been your experience, and is there anything we can learn from those experiences and make sure we are prepared to take it forward? And any suggestions for all of us to help people around us as well? Hari.
Okay. Next, apart from the regular disaster management, when I talk about man-made and natural disasters, uh, pandemic was first of its kind for me when it comes to management part of it. So as a public health emergency specialist for Chennai, I was deployed to understand why urban poor pockets are not able to follow what is asked by the government. Help them understand, provide them with what is required, the basics, mask, maintaining social distance, help them understand. So when we visited, we understood Chennai has over 26, 27 percentage of people living in urban poor pockets, which are also called as slums. And in that particular location, what we understood when they initially they said, okay, we provide them with the mask they're not wearing, we provide them with all the there's a particular decoction which was given every day morning for people to have it. It's Ayurvedic drink where people were refusing. We understood after our exercise, it's a week-long exercise we did in few areas as a pilot, they've lost their livelihood, they're not able to feed their family. So the frustration and anger, unprovoked anger, fear, and then what's going to happen, the uncertainty about future, depression, frustration, all this have bundled up. And whoever comes there to give any kind of advice, they vent it out. So when we stand there, allow them to vent out, and after that, when we sit down to talk with them, they're ready to listen. But again, that frustration and anger turns into a little bit of sorrow, or sometimes they break down, which is absolutely normal. We listen to them, and then we explain them. We understand that this is going on, but we can talk to MSME, micro small enterprise, or other entrepreneurship wings of government to come up with some sort of packages. But then for that, when the things turn normal, you have to be alive. So please do maintain, we spoke to each one in different way, different wavelength to connect. But what we understood was this pandemic had multi-layered, as we all understand, it's not just not the health impact, but also multi-layered attack, multi-layer impact it has created. And one was this. The other, there was, since there was no clarity about this particular disease, lot of rumors were spreading, and in some locations this was equated to AIDS, this was equated to some kind of STD. And people who had symptoms, they felt like, okay, if at all I get tested positive, then I can't get married. So they went ahead and committed suicide. Lot of things which we can't accept happened, we can't even imagine happened. But overall picture, if you ask me, like, more than, government took some steps initially, government is taking certain steps now as well, but to handle the economy, handle the depression which has created in the economic front, they've opened up. All the lockdown has been really unlock stages have started, so things have been bounced back to normalcy. But on the other side, the increase in number of COVID cases is on the rise, deaths are on rise. When we had 50 cases, 60 cases, we were all sitting inside the house. Now we have over 1,000 cases, we are all roaming around. All the bars are open, all the clubs are open. um, the government run liquor shops, Tasmark is open. um, Everything is back to normal, except the numbers have not gone down. So whoever is careful about all these things, with the mask and all the basic precautionary things, are still maintaining. And I know in certain areas still people have not come out of the house, they're waiting for the vaccine to come out. There are people, it's not about education, and it's not about also people, a different social class or financial status. People who have understood this have not come out. uh, with very limited access, they're available for the public, otherwise they are not coming out of it. And government is taking steps, but more now focused on economic side, so they're open. And especially with Navratri, I can send you screenshots of how the city is. uh, it is so crowded that even corona can't pass through it, you know. The crowd is so much for Navratri and Ayudha Puja, so Saraswati Puja and Ayudha Puja. It's now up to people to be careful. I mean, initially when it started, it was like somebody in this particular area was affected or passed away. It has come to a stage where even in my own family, I've lost quite a few people in due to corona. But of course, they had other complications as well. And yesterday there was news from Bangalore that it's a neighboring state from Karnataka, that even after a person is affected by corona and has passed away, the virus is still there for 18 hours in the body. And it affects the lungs, makes it leathery. This is the gist of it. Next.
Sure. Thank you so much, Harry. Yeah, it is, it is disastrous. It is heartbreaking. Of course, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that you lost people in your own family. Condolences. But, of course, we often speak about whether it's mental health, domestic violence, people losing lives in a war zone, or natural disaster. Unfortunately, the tendency is to consider this as a part of statistics, unless until it comes into your own home, own family.
Mhm.
So, I think from what you were saying, that's what I could gather, because people don't take it seriously because I think the firstly, they normalize it after a while, because I actually did a few video lives just when the COVID-19 lockdown started. And I told, I have had conversations in this, sourcing team as well at different points. I actually said I felt there was very close similarities between the war zone and the COVID-19 lockdown, because the reason people were getting so frustrated is because the freedom of choice was taken away. We were not allowed to go out. We couldn't go and meet people. We can't go to school. We can't go to work. So we were kind of told what to do, and there was no other way but to listen and just follow the rules. And I guess in the democratic world we live in today, we are not used to it. We are used to just following our own will and wish to do what we want to do. And I think that kind of created a lot of pent up frustration for people, which then, of course, like you said, resulted in anger, depression, domestic violence. Obviously, they were all gateways of expressing it, or the way it came out. But it was. I think the cause was very different. And also, thank you for mentioning that whatever has happened in the past, then of course also plays a role unless until it was dealt properly. So people who have gone through a war zone or a tsunami or different difficulties, then obviously if it was not dealt with at that point properly, then probably perhaps that comes with a vengeance to bite. So what would you tell to people, for that sector of people who have already experienced adversity or challenge in the past? What can they now do to deal with it, at least at this stage, so that in the future, similar adversities or similar challenges don't impact on them as much? Because change is a constant denominator in life, and it's going to happen whether we like it or not. So what can we do?
Okay. One thing I understood, I wish I understood this in 20s, but in 30s, I understood life is not linear, it's more spiral. So we keep seeing certain things again and again. If we have learned from it, we handle it next time and it appears in a better way, and then we move on. Or again, the repetition happens. It's more of a spiral, like a DNA spiral. This is what I've seen. And one interesting thing is we see similar characteristics again and again in life, but based on the experience from the previous one, if we have learned from it, the handling capacity increases for us next time when we see something similar, somebody similar. Otherwise, then the same experience gets repeated, be it professional or personal, in any angle of life. It can be about education or financial or relationship or anything we take for that matter. This is the scenario. So I might as well be careful in the first time or the second time. Say I didn't understand when I was young, and then I underwent a certain experience, learn from that mistake and keep moving on. Okay, if you become a master, write a book, let people also know, share the knowledge, or keep gaining knowledge to that level. But be careful when we pass through that spiral staircase, because names change, figures change, but similar pattern repeats. This is what I've seen. One. And second thing is, initially I used to react when somebody says something or when somebody does something. I used to react. Slowly it has now, to an extent, a larger extent, it has turned into a response. Okay. And if it is not in my control, um, sometimes I just neglect it, or it doesn't has an important place in my head. It's very easy to say, but at times, but it's more like, on a daily basis I have to work on it, and it is helping me. And another practice which I do is, whenever any painful memory which is still keep coming back again and again in different scenarios, um, I don't know whether this is practiced by people, or but this has helped me. And I also share this in my trainings. One, I bring back that picture, see it as a big movie screen, and then if it is not a pleasant memory, then I change from color to black and white, and I dim the contrast, and and the screen size of the screen becomes smaller to a, from a movie screen, theater screen, to a small screen. And then this is one technique which I do. Or if it's something positive which helps me to grow, then that picture I freeze it and then I enlarge it to a theater screen size. There's also another technique which I follow, which is metaphorically thinking that when I'm stressed or when I'm not in a good mood, go take a cold shower, and then imagine that it gets washed away with the cold shower. Okay, NLP, they use this, but I don't know the exact term which is used by them. But
It's called fish pattern.
oh, fish pattern. Okay.
Yeah.
Then there's one more thing also I do is, If I argue with a person for some reason, okay, or somebody argues with me, or both of us argue, and I am not happy about it, like, after the phase of that conversation, heated conversation, still you have that, then I don't want this kind of things to happen. Then normally I bring back that picture, and the person who actually caused me stress, I slowly convert them into cartoon. Okay, suddenly their ears become big, they become green or purple or whatever color, and then so the whole painful thing, what gave me anger, becomes I don't, இந்த இன்டர்வியூக்கு அப்புறமா என்கிட்ட மேனகா பேசுவாங்களா, I don't know, இவன் என்னமோ சொல்றான்ட்டு. So but the thing is, after I turn that painful memory which caused me anger, it becomes more like a comic thing. Next time when I see them, uh, they appear to me more like a baby. Like, if even if they do something, or a child, they do, I don't get that level of anger, or I don't even see that in that angle. I just see them, okay, fine, that's their level of thinking, it's okay. I might, my level of thinking is much better than that, so I should just move ahead. Or not even comparing my level and their level of thinking, but I just see, okay, that's them and this is me. For me, my inner peace is important, so I should move on. That kind of um, process happens when I cartoonize them. This is live on Facebook as well, right? Okay.
Yes, yes. You have been,
So
you have been totally
whoever I've
trained.
argued, they know what I've thought them of, Mickey Mouse or Goofy, or I don't know. But it has
I was
helped
thinking
me.
more. I was thinking more of Star Wars. Never mind.
No, this has actually helped me, and I don't know, maybe there's some science behind it, I don't know, but uh, when I neutralize that particular situation, and it takes the power out of it, and it becomes more lighter.
Sure. Okay. Thank you so much. So, guys, unless until you want to become cartoons, never have an argument with Hari again.
Yes.
I like the analogy. It is really, really good because I think forgiveness, empathy, and letting go are powerful. We all know that. And sometimes we struggle. So it's very good to have these tools to, imagine some things. And to just to answer the question, what you said to me before is switch patterns. What in NLP, they exactly do the same thing to reduce the power of the bad things and increase the power of the.
Sorry, I missed one more thing. I also take 20-minute naps that help me to reset. Normally, people say when they're really upset, when they're really angry, they can't sleep, they can't eat. I can sleep really good. The 20-minute nap helps me to get clarity. I don't know what happens in my sleep, but when I sleep and I get up, it helps me to have a little bit more clarity. And sometimes I get answers to what I didn't have before the sleep.
Yeah. Thank you. I have a friend. I have a very close friend, actually. I'm sure she will listen to this at some point on Facebook. She used to always tell Menaka, like in Hindi, she used to say, "Soja" means go to sleep. And whenever she is really stressed, she will just go to
Yeah.
sleep, chill, and then come back, and she feels better. And in your case, I am hoping you're not then dreaming of the cartoon in your sleep of the
No,
person
no,
who
no, no.
created that situation. Okay, thank you so much, and it was really, really enlightening. We all learned so much actually from what you said, and I'm sure all the audiences learned a lot as well. So, just to wrap it up, just for the audiences prior to saying that, can you please get ready with your questions? I'm sure everybody is having lots of questions to ask. So before I wrap it up slowly, two more questions. Can you give 5 tips, any 5 tips for the audiences? How you would advise them to deal with any kind of adversity in their life? It could be personal, it could be professional, or it could be global.
Life is really good, Manaka. What I've seen is, yes, lot of issues happen, ups and downs, appreciations, insults, all those things are there, but still I feel life is really beautiful, and it is important to keep realizing that. Not that I always have had success. A lot of failures have been there, a lot of insults have been there, a lot of ups and downs have been there. I'm sure all of you will agree. Peaks and valleys is part of our life, but I feel this is much better than what it shouldn't be. No, no, it's okay. So one thing I realized is life is something which we shouldn't be actually even analyzing too much. Live, enjoy it. These things happen, positives or negatives, peaks or valleys, what we expected happened or not, didn't happen, whether it will happen in the future or what happens to others. All, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so all these things shouldn't affect our flow. And what one thing I like is, irrespective of what is the condition, when the seed gets a chance, it grows. Whether it is watered or not, whether somebody walks on it or not, it grows. So a lot of things to learn from nature. I like a particular picture of a tree which I'll share in the group, where it is completely lost, the roots are decayed, so the whole shaft is completely gone, but then the new stem comes, and then it again becomes another tree. So I feel like, keep evolving. There's no reason for us to think too much, but just go with the flow. Of course, have certain basic plans, but don't cling on to it too much. And not to be too much offended by what others think or others say or others. uh, eh, the truth is, only after 30 I realized nobody has time to think about others. They have their own things to worry about or to think about. So nobody is thinking about you. Nobody is going to worry about you. Nobody is going to have any thoughts about you, or even to. If people talk, it's fine. Just fine. Like, no way it's going to affect us. So my only point here I would emphasize is, life is really beautiful. Come what may, enjoy it. Be with the people who help you to understand it. Enjoy it more. Laugh as much as possible. Be as silly as possible. There's no problem with that at all. If you want to know the level of my silliness, you can check with Menaka and my friend here, Fahira, and Anu from US, who joined few minutes before she just left, or Rajkumar. They know the level of silliness. This is one time we're going to be here, and let's have the maximum whatever we can enjoy. Let's enjoy. You want to have biryani, go have biryani. Don't wait for next week, or don't wait for all those kind of, don't plan too much. Just go enjoy it. We never know when it's going to be a last minute, right? So it's better to have no regret at our deathbed. What major regret, what people say is, I wish I had done this, done that. So don't have a big list at that point of time. My suggestion, don't have a list at all. Do whatever you want to do, and there's no restriction with the age or gender or anything of that sort. This is what I've learned, and this is what I tell in my training, and I'm happy I'm able to share that here as well.
Thank you so much, Harry. No wonder we get along well, because I believe in living to the full. So make full use of because I often say it when I coach as well, because we don't even know tomorrow morning whether we are going to wake up or not. So as well as have fun. Thank you so much. One last question. Of course, you have been part of Soul Strings for a while now, but today is the first time you have come as a speaker. What is any suggestions you can give us to take it forward? Particularly, also we are planning to move forward as a social enterprise and do more with Social Strings, and also any feedback how the experiences of the dealings with us. Thank you, Harry.
Okay. See, we are 21 people, like say 20 people, like average 20 people were here. Each of us at least with 15 years experience minimum. Some 20, some 30. Average 20. So 20 to 2400 years of experiences in this one screen. If we can have key areas, whichever is we are passionate about, put them into a book, and each of us have different sections of it. See, writing about stories of others who have inspired people is good thing, but knowing our own stories from all 20 of us, if a small section of that comes as a book, one, or second thing, we all have expertise in certain area, and then imagine if there's going to be a session where a person comes different, a spectrum of life in different aspects. If all of us can give certain areas for them to improve, it's like a 7-day intensive program, 14 people, 2 days per day, two people per day will
Sure.
be coaching them.
Yeah.
These kind of areas,
Sure.
basically what I'm saying is, how can we amplify our strength, and in that way help more people touch more lives? That would be
Sure.
one, because already you have the platform, already internationally people are connected, you have WhatsApp going, which is very vibrant, you have this shows which is happening, a lot of people know about it. When I spoke to Meenakshi, she said Kentler Kanga, she said yes, yes, I know Soul Strings. When I spoke to Kokila, she was also saying so. Or people here from Canada, they are aware of it. So in the either one, we can this part of it can be leveraged well. And the second thing is, if a person wants to know a little bit more about how to stay resilient, or how do we cope up with adverse situation, any particular topic, after deciding, that can be even a course if they want to enroll.
Sure.
Because
Perfect.
I feel a lot of people need this kind of support. Maybe initially a master class where people can come, see, understand for 90 minutes, this is what I'm going to get, do I really want this more, do I need more of this, and then okay, Mr. Krish is an expert in design thinking. Miss Kanta is an expert in, say, Ikigai. Miss Kirubai is an expert in Kintsugi. Then, or Mr. Chellaya in Kanban. So then they go that into that stream. They come to the main living room and then they choose which room they have to go.
Sure. Perfect. Thank you so much, Hari. It was a pleasure having you, of course. And over a short time I have known Hari, we have become actually friends. And as you can see, in the conversation, there's no shortage of laughter whenever we speak. So, it's always been fun. So thank you so much. Really, you have shared a lot of ideas and tools that people can use immediately to implement. I really appreciate that. Thank you. So before handing it over to Kirubai to give the vote of thanks, let me introduce the next speaker. Next week, it is going to be Annette Bryant, who is going to be speaking about domestic violence, a survivor story of domestic violence. She will be speaking about domestic. I know Annette Bryant for a long time. She is a professional speaking coach. She also speaks. She's also deals with women with faith, and also author, and also a business coach. So she has a variety of skills again. So it will be a privilege to bring Annette Bryant next week, and hoping to see you all. And so with that, can I hand it over to Kirubai to give the vote of thanks, please?
Dr. Hari Balaji, உங்களுக்கு ரொம்ப நன்றி. We would like to thank you on behalf of the Soul Strings and the viewers on the platform. I love the way you wrote a little extract in your, I think it was in your website, saying, choosing to study hospitality is one of the best decisions I have made. It opened a world of opportunities for me. Something that you kind of made a turnaround, hospitality to serving, hotelier to humanitarian. How wonderful is that? And it was very interesting how you brought the whole, you brought the whole picture of what you turned your career into a calling. And it really excited me because you truly is a man who loves people. And with that, I would like to say thank you, be blessed, and be a blessing to many.
Thank you so much, Kirubai. For all of you on the platform, sharing here, and the audience, please get ready with the questions. For those who are listening on Facebook, we would be coming off streaming because to maintain the privacy of the questions. and the people who are asking the questions. Hoping to see you next Saturday. Till I see you next week, have fun, be happy, and keep smiling.